if you're pregnant or you have had a baby, chances are you know what a birth plan is. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I feel about birth plans. When I had Dylan, I didn't really have a birth plan. I think, well, actually I did. I had a massive birth plan, but it was in my head, but I would never have said out loud that I definitely had a birth plan. So whenever I saw the midwife and she was like, what's your birth plan? I would always kind of say, my birth plan is just to go with the flow and see what happens. The only thing that I wrote on the birth plan pages in my sort of maternity notes that you get was that I wanted Rich to be able to cut the cord, or we wanted Rich to be able to cut the cord, and that because we didn't know what we were having, I wanted Rich to tell me what the baby was. And they were the only two stipulations that I had on paper. In my head, I kind of had this half plan that I wasn't really going to use any pain relief. I was going to maybe use gas and air right at the end for pushing, but I didn't really want any pain relief. Anybody that knows how it panned out when I had Dylan, I will leave some links below to both his birth story on my blog and where I vlogged about the kids' birth stories. It didn't really pan out in the kind of earth mummy not really using any pain relief stance that I went down. I ended up having all the pain relief, and also because of the way that he ended up being delivered, Rich wasn't able to cut the cord. He actually came out with the cord over his shoulder and he came out sideways, like kind of their head is either supposed to be facing down or facing up, and he was facing sideways. So because they were trying to get him out in a hurry and trying to maneuver him, they had to cut the cord as he was being delivered. So Rich didn't get to cut the cord. However, he did get to tell me that we had a little boy. So I'm kind of glad that that was written down. In fact, I'm very glad that it was written down because that was the one thing that we'd made a really big thing about, is that we wanted him to tell me. All of the midwife, the consultant that was there when he was delivered, all the paediatricians, everybody that was there were kind of really like, you must not tell Lucy what she's having. She wants her husband to tell her. So when he was delivered, we were just so relieved that he was there that they just sort of delivered this baby and wrapped it up and put it on my chest, and I was just cuddling this baby and so totally in love. And I think he'd been here about 5 minutes probably. And the midwife basically turned around to her and was like, are you going to tell her what you've got? Because I don't think they could stand to wait any longer. But the truth of the matter was, we just didn't care because we had a baby. But yeah, I'm glad that I had written that down on my birth plan. But I'm also very glad that I hadn't written down the in my heart part of the birth plan, which was that I'd wanted it to be really kind of not a lot of pain relief, very calm, all about breathing and all that kind of thing, because I think I would have been disappointed if I'd written all of that down, because I think as soon as I commit it to paper, I would feel like I needed to stick to it. Second time around with Everly, I was very similar again in that I didn't have anything written down on my birth plan pages. I took the same stance with the midwives, that I wasn't bothered. The only thing I was bothered about was that I wanted an epidural as soon as I hit 4 centimetres. So at the first possible opportunity, I wanted to have an epidural. When we got into hospital, they sort of asked about a few things, you know, did we want Dad to cut the cord? Did we want the injection to deliver the placenta and all that kind of thing? And none of that was written down, and it was all kind of stuff that we sort of decided in the moment. The only thing that I wanted was that epidural at 4 centimetres, and that was what I got. Third time around, this I would say coming in the latest time was probably the time when I had the most plans about labour. I don't know if it was an experience thing or whether I just read up on it more or what it was. I was still very adamant that I wanted an epidural at kind of the first opportunity. But I had other things, like I wanted to have delayed cord clamping. I won't pretend to be an expert on it and I won't go into it, but I would definitely say research it, see what you think about it. I felt like for me, I wanted to try it. And when I ran it by my midwife at about 32 weeks, she said that, you know, they're quite happy. They're sort of trying to bring it in more as policy in my area, so they were quite happy to go with that. that we wanted Rich to be able to cut the cord. So I basically had 3 things: epidural, delayed cord clamping, but for Rich to cut the cord when the time came. Third time around, everything happened very, very quickly, and there wasn't time for an epidural. I basically had 2 puffs of gas and air, and then it was pushing time, and they took all the pain relief away and made me kind of focus on what needed to be done. We did get the delayed cord clamping that I'd asked for, and Rich did get to cut the cord. So with all of my birth experiences, I would say the third time I had the most sort of ideas about how I wanted it to go. And of course, pain relief wise, it wasn't anything like how I wanted it to go. But funnily enough, I found my 3rd labour the most empowering. I found it was amazing. And funnily enough, actually, when I think about it now, my 3rd labour turned out the way I'd wanted my 1st labour to go. It's almost kind of like I went round in a circle really, and I kind of ended up with the sort of labour that I'd wanted to have the first time around. I will never be one of those people that kind of prints out and laminates their birth plan and says to definitely stick to it. In fact, if someone were to ask me what my thoughts were on a birth plan, it would probably be to stick with my stance of just don't bother writing one and go with the flow, because the truth of the matter is you don't know how it's going to pan out. I think for me, I am a control freak, and I think that if I had had that written down, it wouldn't have helped me. I think it would have meant that if it hadn't gone the way I'd wanted to, I'd have felt like a failure, and I'd have felt this real kind of like pressure to like tick the boxes that I had on the birth plan. And I was quite happy to go with the flow, see what worked at the time, follow the professional's advice, and that kind of worked for me all 3 times. I think going with the flow could almost be like my parenting mantra. I just do what feels right in the moment, and that's kind of what I did with all my labours, and it worked for me. So leave me a comment in the box and let me know your thoughts on birth plans and your thoughts on my thoughts on birth plans. I'd love to hear what you think, and I will see you in my next video.